Good morning, Vietnam. Wait, no, hold on. That's not the right Robin Williams movie. Give me hold on a second.
Here,
Hello. Wait, no, that's not the one. That can't be right. Hold on. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Wait, that's too serious. That's not what we're talking about. That's no. That's not the one. Hold on a second. Ah, there we go. Do. Podcast come in all sizes. That's a fact. It's true. And that's why today we've decided to subject you to this conversation about death to Smoochy and Robin Williams' year of living villainously. Today on... Oh, man. I am excited to talk about this movie. It's one of my favorites. Before we get into it and Robin Williams' performance in it, I want to introduce my co-host, the brilliant, internationally renowned author, ne'er-do-well, rapscallion, Becky Franzel. Hey, Becky. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
You doing good? I'm jazzy. I'm feeling the jazz.
That's great to hear.
You know, just, yeah.
That's so great to hear.
Swinging the hips.
I noticed.
Yeah.
It's getting dangerous, actually.
So, let me explain what we're doing. I can't think of a more quintessentially millennial icon than Robin Williams. If you grew up in the 90s or anywhere near the 90s, you have to, in your lexicon of film-going experiences, you have a Robin Williams movie, Aladdin, Fern Gully, What Dreams May Come, The Fisher King, Good Will Hunting. The list goes on. And his anniversary, the anniversary of his unfortunate passing, was in August, 10 years, and a big gaping hole in cinema as a result. And we wanted to celebrate, but we don't have time, nor the inclination to watch every single one of his movies. So we decided to settle on a series of films in 2002, a year in which he chose to play 3 villain roles, one funny, one horrifying, and one kind of in the middle, I guess. I don't know. I don't think the guy from Insomnia is too funny. But the first one we're going to talk about is Death to Smoochy, the Danny DeVito corporate satire that bombed at the box office and has become a cult classic. One of my favorites. Seems like a bargain bin kind of cult classic when you could still do that. Before we get into a plot summary, let me ask, Becky, what's your first experience with Robin Williams and Death to Smoochy?
That would be Flubber, is my first experience.
Love Flubber.
The classic.
Yeah.
Specifically the scene with the colander, where he's in the lab and Flubber is going all over the place. He's going wild, bouncing all around as a Flubber does. And so then he brings out the colander trying to catch Flubber so he can contain him. But instead, a million little Flubbers spring out from the colander, and now he has a million little tiny Flubber problems.
Okay, this is how you found out about this is your reproductive health talk?
Yes,
the
exactly.
Birds and the bees and the Flubbers?
Yeah, it's been confusing ever since.
Yeah.
So that was my Flubber experience. I have that in my little memory cabinet that I pull out like once a month. I love that movie. I loved that movie. Death to Smoochy, that was, like you said, it was a bargain bin. So I remember being in Target, little punk ne'er-do-well Becky, 16. It's like, oh, nobody likes this movie, clearly, because it was literally just a $2 bin filled with Death to Smoochy, and that was the only movie, right? So I was like, oh, I gotta watch this movie. So I picked it up, got it, loved it.
That's how you could blow up that way back then. I mean, the only reason it bombed, and then they had made like 100 million DVDs that no one was buying, but then, to your point, like a bunch of young people were buying them.
Right.
Because like, what is this thing? What is this weird movie? And it came in one of those weird...
It was like the cardboard case.
Yeah, you had to snap the side of it to open it up.
Yeah.
And it had a bunch of special features on it, but it was something that we passed around amongst each other. And like, this is the greatest movie ever made.
Right.
What is this thing?
Well, and also it fit our budget, right? So like, there's a whole era of people who just like grew up on these $2 bargain bin movies, and those are the cult classics, right?
Right. That was, back when you could find a 24-hour Walmart. And you would just go there at 3 o'clock in the morning, kind of half stoned with your friends, and just dig through the $2 to $5 bargain bin. It's kind of sad now, for some reason, because no one finds movies like that anymore. That's not how you build your collection. I don't know, honestly, how cult classics are made now. Things aim to be cult classics. Things are called future cult classics, but I don't really Without a monoculture, I don't think things have the ability to kind of blow up like that anymore.
Well, especially like a cult classic, because now everything's so niched down, right? Like, there are certain people who like horror movies and they only watch horror movies. And I know that that's how it used to be, right? But now it's even more so when you can go to a streaming platform that only plays these movies.
No,
right?
Absolutely. I mean, you'd go to a Blockbuster or a Family Video or its ilk, and it would have a horror section and an action section, but you would have to interact at least visually with other genres of film, and sometimes you might get distracted.
Right.
Now you can subscribe to Shudder and just get horror movies. Your algorithm keeps certain movies from you. Some of my favorite movies I found just by randomly wandering around a video store and finding something that I like the box art for. And you just don't, that's not how the algorithm works. That's not how streaming services work anymore.
Right.
Tubi is the closest thing, I think, to that, is that I've felt where I'm watching a streaming service that's also like a mom and pop video store, because everything is so random and the algorithm is like throws random stuff at you no matter what you've watched.
It's a fuck it algorithm, right?
Pretty much,
like,
yeah. Which is what the mom and pop store was like. They bought according to their own personal taste. So when we say we miss Blockbusters, we don't miss Blockbuster. We miss video stores. But Blockbuster was by far the worst experience at a video store. Family Video ruled, but my favorites were like, I forget the name of it, but there was this place when I lived in a small town in Ohio next to a car wash. It was the size of a closet, but it had like 100,000 movies in there that they just bought according to their own tastes. And you could find the most obscure, weird things in there. I was friends with a video store guy when I lived in West Virginia. He would just randomly give me things to watch. There's
a VHS store that just opened up in Beatty. Of course, that's where it opened up.
Is it Blast Radius?
Yes.
Yeah, Blast. I've been meaning to visit that place. Because I missed River West Video, which was a little bit like that. Which brings us back. Back to Death to Smoochy. Yeah. Plot summary. It's pretty simple. It's a fairy tale directed by Danny DeVito that is about a crazy mixed up world where a children's entertainer gets caught for corruption, and the corporation that he works for, Kidnet, throws him under the bus and throws him out, and finds a new, naive replacement for him, and tries to squeeze all the authenticity they can out of him while exploiting him for merchandise deals. He gets caught up in the corruption inherent with that position, and Robin Williams as Rainbow Randolph basically spends the entire time plotting his revenge.
Trying to get his spot back.
Yeah, trying to get his spot back. The other plots, Danny DeVito is in it as an agent, and he's trying to get Sheldon Mopes, which is Edward Norton's character, to buy into the corruption, and he refuses it, and Catherine Keener's showrunner slowly falls in love with his idealism, his sort of the naive idealism that he has, because he's one of these super annoying guys that's always talking about being a vegan and like you need to try the gluten-free bun and the sugar-free cookies and the plant-based blah blah blah, which is fine, but he's really foreshadowing how annoying the health industry was and would be in the future.
But I like the way he does it, though, because the reason that he does it is for good. It's not like, oh, I'm better than you. It's like, oh, no, everyone should have this because this makes me happier, right?
There is a little bit of, I feel like so he had auditioned for the role a couple of times in the movie. Like he auditioned to be on Kidnet a number of times. And they were like, this guy's annoying.
Uncorruptible,
but he's annoying and almost too childish for a child show. They needed an adult who could be. They needed somebody who was malleable and open to suggestion, like open to the merchandising opportunities. Mm-hmm. And it was clear that he wasn't going to be that guy. I think they had met him once and he was super annoying, and so they rejected him.
Oh, he kept submitting his application from what I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, several times.
And so they find him in a methadone clinic singing his cheesy songs about getting off the sauce to these guys who don't care.
You like to think they cared.
They clearly did not care. But he played with enthusiasm despite the circumstances, playing in his ratty little rhino outfit. But they hire him, and he is immediately a pain in the ass because he refuses to merchandise things. Danny DeVito helps him get the power, creative control, because he keeps pissing them off because he keeps changing the songs because they just want him to sing about sing about the cookies that they're going to sell, to sing about the products that they're going to sell, and he refuses because he actually wants to, quote unquote, make children's lives better, which is
he wants to sing about the cookies that come from that are made with the earth.
Right.
And see, that's what I'm saying. He just wants to make kids happy. Still cookies, just made healthfully.
It's so dark.
I love that movie.
Yeah, and so Jon Stewart is in it as Catherine Keener's showrunner's assistant. I love seeing Jon Stewart before he actually he's ankle deep in the Daily Show at this point. He hasn't quite come into his power yet, but he's proved himself. Jon Stewart in the 90s, he was trying to be a movie actor. He had a talk show that replaced Arsenio because there was the same reason that this corporation hired Mopes. They fired a black dude and then hired this schlubby Jewish white dude to replace him on a talk show.
Exasperated.
Yeah. But he was always this sad schlubby guy. And so I think this is his last movie role. It's got a stacked cast, but my favorite is Harvey Fierstein, the guy that talks like this. You remember him from Independence Day, if nothing else. He runs the Parade of Hope, which runs an ice skate show that is the heart of the corrupt organization.
It's their cash cow.
It's their cash cow. They use it to get a bunch of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars from people. And Mopes refuses to do it. And it leads to this chain of horrifying events. This is just such a great movie. It's such a sharp satire of corporate interference, of corruption, of the way that children's entertainment outside of Jim Henson is always trying to exploit them for as much as they're worth. I mean, when you look at the 80s and the era that I grew up in, everything that I love, when you talk about people, my childhood is ruined.
Outside of Mr. Rogers too, right? Because he's infamously...
I mean, Mr. Rogers isn't even part of that conversation because he's famously incorruptible. He's he's fucking Harvey Dent.
If anything, he is, he is
Sheldon Mopes. Yeah. He was Smoochy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hear about neckbeard 45-year-olds talking about this ruined my childhood, because a new version of the thing was made that didn't cater to his tastes.
Psychopaths.
Those tastes were developed because they were sold toys. And programs like Transformers was a show in Japan that they remodeled to sell toys to children in America. Mm-hmm. And G.I. Joe is the same way. It's just they develop programs and develop the merchandising opportunities outside of those programs to just sell children on this idea. So these kids that had these make-believe little characters and they would develop all these scenarios for them, they had a clear idea of what their thing was. And so 30 years later, when they make a new version, it's that's not what the fantasy was. I'm mad. I'm mad. It ruined my childhood.
Well, if anything, I mean, I think if they were to look back, too, they would see that it has more similarities than differences, right? But they don't want to see that because he's not wearing the right vest.
It doesn't have Morgo in it.
Or he's not wearing the right sunglasses.
Right.
And it's Jesus Christ, man. Come on.
The reason you care so much is your childhood was already ruined by the divorce. And the lead. So it's a bunch of things destroyed your childhood. If your childhood memories are on such shaky ground that a new Star Wars thing that isn't catering to your taste and features a black guy, a gay woman, it destroys your childhood. Your childhood sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Death to Smoochy. So Robin Williams is a fucking revelation in this thing. He is out of his mind. He's utilizing that crazy manic energy that he's always been known for, and he's making it sad.
Also there is an innocence to the sadness, right? Even though he's so corrupt, he's still, like, when he gets happy, he dances in Times Square, right? Like a very innocent, childlike action.
He very clearly didn't clear that developmental hurdle before adulthood. Like, he's clearly been working in children's entertainment for so long that he thought he was insulated from consequence, and he never figured out how to survive without, like, the foundation of corruption that had kept him going. Because he was selling seats to children or to parents. He would let parents buy their kids good positions in the little sing-along get-togethers, so they could be seen on camera, so they could get more hype for themselves, so they could sell their children into some kind of pseudo-stardom as well.
But then he'd pull the rug and say, oh, just kidding, I'm just going to take the money.
Exactly. He was a bratty little kid in an adult body who had no idea how to survive in the quote-unquote real world. Because they fire him, and then they kick him out of the penthouse. He's on the streets. They cut off his bank accounts. They seized all his assets. He's got nothing. And
which seems like a wild stretch for a job to do.
I mean, the corporation was they were so desperate to save face and not be associated with that corruption that they just completely cut ties with him. Again, completely unrelatable. You know, that doesn't...
Never happens.
Corporations don't do that.
Hollywood would never.
They care about you. They care about you as a person. Don't look up the article about the Wells Fargo employee who clocked in and was found dead 4 days later in the cubicle and no one had noticed until it started to smell. Corporations care about you.
Yeah, I remember what they said in my last layoff. I mean, they were like, it's not you, it's us. And, you know, that really resonated with me.
We just think you're too good for us, is essentially what they said. Like,
right.
We don't think we could handle you making us as successful as you have been for much longer because it makes us feel bad.
And here you go. We'll give you a week of pay for free just on us.
Wow. The generosity. That's crazy. So they kick him out and no one will talk to him. Jon Stewart's character, he tries to get help from him. It's one of my favorite scenes in this where Rainbow Randolph meets up with Stokes. He was Stokes, Marion Stokes. He meets up with him. He's like, hey, man, I just need some money. I just need something. If you could just help me just a little bit. And Jon Stewart, I'm sorry, it's a character. He put a lot of work into it.
It's not Jon Stewart, guys.
Stokes gives him a gift bag from an awards banquet he just came from. That's filled with like lotion and some chocolates and like a candle. And then tells him never to speak to him again. He ends up going and living with one of his former cohorts. He's one of the guys that's like works in all of the programs. So before he was like a Raimbet or whatever. Well, he's a little dude.
A Ronette.
Yeah. And now he's a Smoochette. And he's just one of the little dudes, the little munchkin dude. But he lets Rainbow live with him for a little while he plots his revenge.
Seems to have it 100% together, too. His apartment was gorgeous.
His apartment was great. He's clearly he's good with his money. Just a working actor doing his best to get by, surviving. That's the thing about Rainbow Randolph. He expected loyalty from people who are like, I'm trying to survive in an economy that doesn't really support people like us.
Right.
And you want me to drop all of that for you. But the way that Robin Williams, I mean, we all knew he was a brilliant actor. He's been doing it since the 70s. When you look at something like Aladdin or The Fisher King, where he can go from light to dark very easily. But this one, he's like screaming and yelling and crying. And he goes from sympathetic to pathetic in the span of like a facial movement. One of my favorite scenes is one in which like he's desperate for attention. He's desperate for the affection that he had. He's desperate for people to love him like they did because they were, it feels like he had a terrible childhood. And it feels like the corporation and his fans were how he replaced that love.
Right.
And, you know, it's not like it's completely unrelatable to this desperate need for attention and affection.
Well, we both grew up with like a ton of love and we were never bullied and, you know, never really made fun of.
My parents were perfect people who didn't divorce because of a Mortal Kombat movie. There's a scene where he threatens to self-immolate in front of the studios and he pulls up in front of the studio. he pours a bunch of gasoline on him. People are surrounding him. He's giving a speech, and this little girl comes up right as he's about to he lights the match. It's holding it in his hand, and then this little girl walks up and is like, "I love you, Rainbow." He's like, "Oh my God, I've got a little hope left." And then all of a sudden she sees Smoochy coming out of the place and is like, "Oh, Smoochy." And then they all run. And he's just sitting there.
Doused in gasoline.
But he doesn't go through with the act because there's no one to witness it.
Right, exactly.
If there's no one to witness it, what's the point of it? Yeah, right.
Yeah, because he's a performer through and through, right?
I love watching him go from that. It's interesting watching. I love Danny DeVito was another one of these guys that is a millennial icon, a 90s. It's hard to explain to people that Danny DeVito had a full successful career before being on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He had directed movies. He had starred in some of the best sitcoms in history. He had starred in some of the best movies of that era. He directed Matilda, of all things, the movie for people that grew up in that era. You know what Matilda is. Everyone knows what Matilda is. People are breathlessly wondering what happened to the actress that was in Matilda.
It raised a generation and got us addicted to pancakes.
It got you addicted to pancakes, but also I would say that Matilda is responsible for a lot of anti-authoritarianism that some kids grew up into, like suburban children were like, well, maybe this kind of behavior is actually not beyond reproach, and I should be able to choose whether I abide by these rules or not.
Well, and there was also a resurgence for Roald Dahl, right? And a lot of his books are like the kid saves the day, or the kid fights back against this corrupt adult, and
weird corrupt adults. Yeah.
And Roald Dahl is incredibly important as a child author, right? Children's book author.
I would say that Death to Smoochy is very much in which I can see why it appealed to Danny DeVito. It's very much in that same vein, where it's like questioning the authority figures that rule your life, the structures that demand your fealty for nothing more than either pain, money, the suffering of others, that desperate control over things. So Danny DeVito, the way that he shoots films is so unique and so interesting because none of them are exactly the same. He loves mixing up genres. It's clear that he has been involved with hundreds of productions that are all different because he directed Throw Mama from the Train, but he directed Matilda. He directed this. Right after this, he directed a movie called Duplex, which is a completely different kind of movie, but this is kind of like a Fantasyland it's like a satire, noir. But it's also a noir.
Yeah.
There is a character who works at an Irish pub that he had just gotten beat in the head as a boxer too much, and he's just stupid. But he's like charmingly stupid, and the Irish mob that runs it through intimidation, convinces Mopes to have him on the show as, what was his name? What the Rhino? Moochy the Rhino. Smoochy and Moochy.
Mm-hmm.
And
nailed it with that cowbell too.
He nailed the cowbell. Mm-hmm. The Irish mob, or there is a nonprofit called the Parade of Hope, which puts on that ice show, and Mopes refuses to be a part of it, so they send goons after Smoochy, but they accidentally kill Moochy, and that entire scene is so stylish.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Danny DeVito plays with lights,
behind the curtain,
shadow, is behind the curtain. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
There's a scene with Fierstein's Merv Green with Jon Stewart, where Jon Stewart's face is only illuminated by the blinds and the light behind those blinds. There is no need to be this stylish in a film like this, but Danny DeVito goes for broke, and I love it. There is an elaborate... The third act is kind of a mess for me because they don't really resolve a lot of the issues, and they just go into the extravaganza of the ice show because Mopes eventually agrees to it, as long as he can give everything away for free.
Right.
That's the incident, is that he decides he wants to give everything away for free. So no money can be made on this.
Well, he donates to the methadone clinic and then also donates to children's, is it Feeding Children?
Something akin to
yeah.
that, yeah. So he's giving away free snacks, giving away free merch. No money will be made for anything except for the causes that he decides he wants to do.
Right.
So the Parade of Hope, very angry, very upset. Jon Stewart's character is a pawn of theirs. So there's this huge conspiracy. Everyone wants to take down Smoochy. And so the third act is basically this elaborate ice show, which is one of maybe the funniest things I've ever seen.
It's perfect and wonderful, and I'd see it 10 times.
It's so well choreographed and so stupid. And like there's this tribute to Moochie in it that's so...
that makes the Irish mob cry.
That makes the Irish mob cry, yeah.
And I think the Irish mob is so fun the way Danny DeVito shoots it too, because they always gather in a group. You never see them by themselves. It's like, oh no, here is the Irish mob. Like a chorus, right? Like a Greek style chorus.
That's a really good, that's a great way of looking at it. The way it's staged is very much like a play. So yeah, in the end, Rainbow Randolph learns his lesson, and it's like my problem with it is everyone just kind of learns their lesson, gets along at the end. The bad guys are taken care of. The group trying to kill Smoochy brings in this old guy who used to be on there called Buggy Ding Dong, played by Vincent Schiavelli, I think his name is.
Nails it.
He's the guy from Ghost. Yeah, he's such just a trash monster of a man, and he's supposed to be the sniper that takes out Smoochy, but he falls asleep because he's
addicted to heroin.
Because he's on heroin. Yeah. But Rainbow Randolph saves the day, and then spoiler alert for this movie. If you haven't seen it, get your shit together.
Go to any Target. Go back to the early 2000s.
Get a DeLorean, develop a time machine, go back to the Walmart bin in 2003.
What, like it's hard?
Everyone saves the day. It's kind of a happy ending. Smoochy and Rainbow work together, blah, blah, blah. It is very much, but it is a fairy tale in that way. And it is presented as such, like a noir satire fairy tale.
It reminds me of like what Roald Dahl would write, right? Where it's like a dark fairy tale that teaches all the right lessons, right? Like forgiveness, being kind no matter what, sticking to your morals, sticking to your guns. It's very Roald Dahl.
Absolutely, it is. And if you look at the reviews for it, people were mostly upset because it presented a lot of ideas and didn't really follow through on a lot of them. But I don't think it's responsibility to be anything more than an entertaining movie. It was satire, and it was pointing out flaws, and it was making fun of corporations and talking about how they treat people, and making a case for kindness and all that jazz. But it gets all of that across.
I was gonna say, do you think if they would have like wrapped up every single loose end, do you think you would have learned the lessons more?
Well, I'm not trying to learn a lesson. By the time I was watching it, like if you're watching it, you already know these things. You already know corporations are bad. You already know that they'll throw you under the bus. You already know that they're corrupt.
Right.
So I don't need a movie to double down on. It's not supposed to be a drama. It's supposed to be a comedy.
Right.
A very, 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 very dark comedy.
I still like Mopes' character, though, a lot, right? And I think it's good for those characters to exist, even if they might be a little, way too saccharine, way too, over the top. I think it's important for those characters to exist so they stick in our brains a little bit.
I think the thing about Mopes is that he's painfully naive to start with. He just wants good things for people. He's like he's like a more childish Mr. Rogers. He has no creative control, and all he does is argue with these people. And they're getting ready
for the right causes.
For the right causes. He sticks to his guns. He gets an agent who empowers him to present these messages. But by joining up with that agent, he's also complicit in the kind of corruption that empowers people like that.
Right.
And so the only reason he has the ability to make those kinds of decisions is because he's bought into the corporation. He has power within a structure that is corrupt, and it does corrupt him to a certain degree because he has to align himself with the worst people on earth to accomplish his goals.
Are you talking about the Irish mob or?
Everyone, he has to align himself. If he actually believed what he believed, he wouldn't work for that corporation in the first place. But he learns to basically operate within the structures to get his message across, but he doesn't care who he endangers in the process. He doesn't care who gets screwed over in the process. He just wants his message to get out, even though his message is also kind of dangerous because you can't operate with pure moral impunity within that system.
Well, I think he's arguing to change the system entirely, right?
Which is naive.
I mean, I think that's what we're butting up against right now in society in general, right? Of like, do you go with the lesser evil or do you change it up completely?
Right. And then him, if there was a plot point that I think could have been cut, it's him and Catherine Keener's character, Nora, the producer showrunner, end up falling in love. And it's a little too easy for her to fall in love with him.
I disagree. I fell in love with his character immediately. How could you not?
Well, that's interesting. How could I not? Because I found him to be grating and annoying.
Yeah, but he stuck to his guns no matter what.
But what his guns are annoying, cloying, and painfully naive. And it's the kind of like, yeah, we'd all probably be better off if we lived under the lifestyle that he proposes. Mm-hmm. But those people that do that are the most annoying human beings on earth. And he's so annoying.
But she's a child show groupie, though. Like, that's a characteristic of hers, right? Like, where
that they introduced later in the game, which is kind of...
I thought it was funny.
When Randolph busts into the apartment and is like, you used to be somebody. Where's the weird boy? Oh, doesn't he know?
Yeah.
And then he gets kind of upset for a second. Like,
that part was weird.
I think, yeah, because my problem with his character is that he isn't loyal to it for plot convenience. Like, sometimes, like, he got really upset at that, even though his whole thing is accepting of people for who they are.
But he has the dark history of he went through anger management, right?
What happened?
Remember, he went through anger management.
Oh, I forgot about that part. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So there is a darkness to him which they don't explore well enough for it to be a character trait that they utilize later. Because
you can see it from time to time, though. Like when he's about to shoot the guy from Parade of Hope, and the Irish mob is like, no, don't, because you see it in his eyes, right? He returns back to that character. I think that's what makes his character work for me, is because you can always see that darkness there, but he's fighting against it because he understands that darkness. I don't think he's wholly naive, right? I think it's a character choice.
I don't think there's enough of an exploration of it for me, because it kind of rushes that character development later in the movie. Where he's like painfully optimistic almost all of it, and then they're kind of like, well, he had anger management, and he talked a little smack to Nora when he got what he wanted, but for the most part they saved all of that to the end, but there was no build up to it. It's very clear that that's why it appeals to Edward Norton, who had done Primal Fear, where he plays a multiple personality type, or he did Fight Club, where he plays a multiple personality type, American History X, where he played two different personalities at different times in their lives. Mm-hmm. It's very clear that Edward Norton loves to explore different facets of
the changing human mind.
Yeah. And apparently that's what he's like on sets too.
Yeah.
Where he goes from like, I want to be part of your production to I own this production and you will not. Like, there's a whole conversation to be had about how he basically destroyed Tony Kaye's career from American History X because he demanded to be in creative control, but he was the hot thing, so they let him get away with it.
To be fair, though, when everyone knows American History X, I guess I don't know the story, so I can't talk.
Well, basically what happened, I'll summarize. Tony Kaye made the movie. Edward Norton demanded final cut, and the studio, because it was Edward Norton, allowed him to have it, made a compromise with him. Then he made a different cut that was different than the one that they had agreed on, and they locked Tony Kaye out of the editing room.
Oh, shit.
But then they tried to compromise with Tony Kaye, and he had already had enough, and he lost his goddamn mind and spent the millions of dollars he made on this on getting ads in the newspaper to call out the production company.
That's weird.
And it was weird, and he lost a lot of his reputation at the time. Even he was a great filmmaker, made one of the best abortion documentaries ever been made, destroyed his career through the actions of Edward Norton. But Edward Norton always stuck to his guns.
Right. And that's an interesting take on, rounding back to Death of Smoochy, that's where that type of character can go wrong, right? Where you're so adamant on your ideas and your morals and your beliefs that you can't hear anybody else.
Right.
Right? And there has to be some sort of malleability there. Even if you are sticking to your guns, there is always a compromise that can be made for good, right? To work together versus like just working against everything.
There is no way to fight the good fight permanently.
No.
You can't stay separate from the system. I mean, that's the lesson of SLC Punk.
Right.
One of those distinctly of the time movies where the end of it is basically a bunch of punk rockers in Salt Lake City understanding that the only way to defeat the system is from within the system.
Right.
Or the system will crush them regardless.
I think we learned that while we were touring in 2019, too, and that we were really trying to fight the good fight, but there was no way to do it because we live in a system. Basically, we were touring, raising money for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, but there are so many problems there to begin with that it's not like a small tour can.
Well, I mean, yeah, there is, and one day we'll have a long conversation about my decades-long relationship with NAMI and how the corruption inherent within that system, they relied solely on a production that I was a part of and squandered that money on useless programs.
But again, that was just a chapter of NAMI.
That was just a chapter of NAMI because there's no centralized control scheme to make sure that people are getting the help they need with the money that they raise.
Right.
The money that was coming from that went into other people's pockets and not into the people that worked for them, and definitely not into the programs. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I think that colored the way that I viewed this too, because when I think if we hadn't had that experience with nonprofits, right? Like, and I worked for the agency that worked with nonprofits as well for a while. I'm not sure if the Parade of Hope part would have resonated as much, right? If we hadn't had that real world experience.
I can tell you, here's my experience with, my first experience with a nonprofit that wasn't NAMI was back in 2008. I was seeing somebody who ran a nonprofit in Milwaukee, and they threw a Halloween party in a warehouse in the 3rd Ward. And it was a Halloween party, costume party. I was dressed up as Scarecrow. I'd made the mask out of an old coffee bean bag, and it was a super cool costume. Everyone there from those organizations was dressed up like it was like a Great Gatsby party. And the people serving us the food and drink were children, juveniles, recruited from the juvenile facility in Milwaukee to walk around and wear orange jumpsuits to serve these elites their food and drink.
Right, because even in a nonprofit system, those like leeching societies are so ingrained that it's just like, well, of course we do that.
It was so much like a Gotham City party. It was so painfully. It's so fucked up to see kids who were just trying to do their best and got caught up in this destructive system, used as slaves for this glitzy, glamorous party with a bunch of incredibly wealthy donors and incredibly wealthy recipients, thrown by a nonprofit that was a VIP invite-only party. It was nuts, and it shaped my entire viewpoint about how nonprofits work and the city in general.
Well, I mean, nonprofits can't exist if there isn't somebody to serve, right? And that was a huge eye-opener when we were talking. I used to work at an agency that wrote website copy for different nonprofits in the Pennsylvania area, or in the Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a huge state. But
the Pennsylvania,
we were always taught to write for the donors and not for the people actually visiting the site for the services, because it was implied that they'd always be there, right? Because the system doesn't actually help them to exceed past their situation. It helps them to get by.
It's the cliche, like we'll sell you the temporary solution, but we won't sell you the cure.
Right. And there are certainly ones doing great. Like when we visited NAMI in New Orleans, I'll never forget how well run that facility was and how the woman who was showing us around introduced us to every person and spoke to them as if they were humans. And I guess that sounds like it's a low bar, but based on some of the other chapters that we visited,
the bar is in hell.
Yeah. But NAMI New Orleans is fucking incredible. Right? So, like, there is something to be said about the ones that are transcending the expectations, right?
Yes.
Because it's very much a Smoochy thing, where, like, it's amazing that you can keep your ideals and do well and create a successful nonprofit in this capitalistic hellscape environment.
It is interesting watching a film like that now, and we discussed this on the Pain and Gain cast, where when I saw it, I already knew corporations sucked. We all knew that. We learned that from just being alive. But then to watch it now after these experiences, it turns it into almost a profound film.
Right.
Because it wasn't profound.
It's not voyeuristic. It's something that we have experienced.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's operating within those corporate structures and then going back and watching a film that's so on the nose about it. It's like, again, with the fairy tale thing, it almost seems too nice.
Right.
Its satire almost seems too soft.
Right.
Even though at the time it seemed very sharp and very smart and very willing to dive into the actual corruption. At watching it now, it seems, well, to my point earlier, it's not as deep as maybe people wanted it to be when they watched it, but it doesn't need to be. All you have to do is understand that these corporations, these structures simply exist, and this is how they treat people.
It's a philosophy 101. It's necessary, but might not go as deep as you need it to if you take it 5,000 times. Right?
And we might be just reading too much into it, but it's okay to read too much into it because under the system that we live in now, it's interesting going back and watching, because that was during a relatively, that was like real post 9/11, which is probably why.
But we were unified and we were coming together, right? We were in a weird spot.
We were not coming together. Americans were coming together to scream at brown people and to send their children off to die totally for...
I was also like
to die for corporations. That's the thing, is like, had it come out in like 1999, I think it would have done a lot better. But the powers that be were so powerful in 2002 and through that era that it almost seemed quaint.
Right.
And it got lost in the shuffle of what was actually happening in the world at the time. So going back and watching it is an interesting experience. Which brings me to my next point, which is interesting. There is a DVD, there's a reclamation physical media company called Shout, which just released a 4K version of Death to Smoochy, because we watched the crappy DVD version. We have an actual copy from the Target bargain bin that is garbage.
Yeah, it's been sitting in my parents' basement for 20 years? Yeah. Something like that?
There is a 4K edition of Death to Smoochy out now with a bunch of extra stuff on it from Shout Factory. I can't wait to check that out, to watch it in its all its glory now. So I can only recommend that you go out and get it through there. But honestly, if you're a real one, you're going to get on eBay and you're going to pay $3 for the crappy DVD version.
Or just stop me on the street. I'll probably have it in my purse. Just shake me down, you know?
I love this movie so much. For all its flaws, which are readily apparent now, I think it is a piece of pure genius from Danny DeVito and his last burst of real creative energy before he devoted it to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And again, back to the reason why we're talking about this at all, Robin Williams is incredible in this film. He is giving it his all that manic energy, dancing in the streets, dancing on top of these things, screaming at people, breaking things, throwing things, screaming and smiling and crying and weeping, all within the same shot within seconds of each other.
In a way that's relatable, too. It's not over the top. Like,
I felt so bad for him.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect to.
Even though he was doing absolutely shitty things, right?
He was a person just doing the best he could in the system that he had. Like, it's easy to be mad. It's easy to say, well, you were corrupt. The system taught him to be corrupt. And he exploited the system as much as he always had been. And his shock at getting caught made his brain melt.
Well, and also, like,
getting caught and getting dumped.
He wasn't fired because of what he did. He was fired because he was caught.
He was fired because of how bad it made them look.
Right.
Because if they had explored it, everything he was doing, the system that supported him was complicit in.
Right.
Yeah.
They were endorsing it, if anything, right?
Mm-hmm. We haven't even talked about, like, the production design on this movie is incredible. How
gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. It's the way the set design is, the way that the actual children's show is, the songs are fantastic.
The use of shadow is so cool.
Yeah.
Because it's so dark. It's like a shadow box.
The songs that Smoochy sings are hilarious.
The dad getting divorced, or the stepdad song?
Yeah.
An icon, a banger.
That's a
summertime jam.
Stepdad's got a new lease on life from that song. Because stepdads were going out of style.
Yeah, but as soon as he starts abusing you, you call somebody.
Yeah.
But give him a little slack from time to time.
Yeah. It's so good. And it is a who's who of, like, real popular. Like, Catherine Keener was really coming into her own then. The last sight of Jon Stewart as an actor. And Edward Norton really...
I love Edward Norton in this. I love Edward. He's the perfect fit for this movie. He really is.
Yeah. No, Edward Norton is... he's one of those actors where you're like, I can't believe he did this after this. After this, he did this.
I mean, back to Sing Sing, Coleman Domingo is a very similar actor in that way, in that he just kind of embodies the character as soon as he's in it, right?
I mean, he's just a really good actor. Edward Norton is one of those best actors of his generation. Him and Philip Seymour Hoffman were probably neck and neck for best actors of their generation, with a couple of people coming up behind them. John C. Reilly was a great character actor. At the time, Tom Cruise was a great character actor. Although, to be fair, when I see Tom Cruise, I just think Tom Cruise, but he's doing a variation on Tom Cruise.
Right.
But I think Edward Norton was really one of those guys where you're like, I will see it because he's in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The same way I felt about Philip Seymour Hoffman at the time. I was like, I will watch any film that this guy is in. I do not care what it is. Mission Impossible 3 is a terrible action movie. It's a J.J. Abrams movie. Its plot is stupid. Philip Seymour Hoffman is amazing in it. Yeah. That's not the point of this. Edward Norton is a great actor. When he went off to go do a Marvel movie, and he did the same shit. He was in The Incredible Hulk, and he basically demanded creative control. He changed scenes on the fly. He demanded control over the edit. And they were like, no, we're going to recast you.
I mean, that's an interesting take to round it back to Death to Smoochy. That's an interesting take on that Death to Smoochy character, right? In that, like, sometimes it can go awry. Sometimes it's too much, right? Sometimes fighting for 100% creative control is not the best.
Well, the point his character in Death to Smoochy came up against that constantly, and that's what made him break a little bit. That's why I think the last act is a little too pat, because in reality, like, he would have come up against that and it would have broken him, as opposed to he ends up just getting everything that he wants.
Right.
And it's a lot of plot contrivance, but again...
But that's why it's a fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale.
Right.
Exactly. So, Death to Smoochy, get on it. Amazing movie. Any last thoughts?
I think we covered it.
Did we cover it? We covered it.
I think we got everything you could talk about with that movie. We covered it.
Again, Shout Factory, 4K release of Death to Smoochy very recently. Go get a copy of that if you're feeling fancy, if you're bougie about it, or find a crappy DVD copy if you can on eBay and really live old school.
Again, or just ask me on the street.
Yeah.
Probably have it on me.
Bug Becky constantly. Send her messages about getting a copy of it. Don't even... When she says, leave me alone, that's just her way of saying, keep trying.
That's just my auto reply.
Yeah.
You keep messaging.
Just a silent scream.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We covered it. That's good. This has been good. This has been a good chat. Join us next time when we're going to be talking about Insomnia, the Al Pacino, Robin Williams movie, Christopher Nolan's second mainstream movie after Memento. We'll be talking about Robin Williams going super dark for that, but super quiet, super dark, reining in that energy. But that's next time. This has been This Time, and this is the end of This Time. I've been Jason Hillman.
And I'm Becky Franzel.
And this has been the Dead-Eyed Millennial
Film Club.
Oh my gosh. Goodbye now. It's not your fault.